Half the downtown condos listed in the Twin Cities last year never sold. Just sat there piling up while sellers waited for a phone call that never came. So if the "everyone is leaving Minneapolis" headlines have you spooked, today I'm breaking down where buyers are leaving and where they're flooding into instead. Let's dive in. Walk through a downtown condo building right now and you'll see every other unit with a for sale sign that's been hanging on the door for months, and the elevator's stuck on the lobby, as if it's out of order, but nothing's wrong with it. That's the scene playing out in one specific zip code in the Twin Cities, and the wild part is, it's the zip code the headlines seem to be missing for some reason. The worst performing submarket in the entire metro is downtown St. Paul condos, and it's not even close to a contest. We're talking around 12 months of unsold condo inventory just sitting there, which is nearly triple what most people would call a buyer's market, by the way. And inventory has grown over 30% year over year, so the pile is getting bigger and bigger. Homes are sitting on the market for over 3 months on average, and weirdly, sellers are holding pretty close to full list price, but buyers just aren't biting. A big part of why this is happening comes down to what's going on around those condos, because downtown St. Paul has an office vacancy problem, with vacancy rates that peaked above 30% in recent years. And when the streets get quieter during the day and the lunchtime energy fades, the whole appeal of paying a condo premium for that walkable downtown lifestyle doesn't hit the same way. So sellers are holding firm on price and buyers are walking right past. And keep this in mind when we get to the Southwest Metro a little later, because there's one city out there pulling buyers in so fast that the contrast against what's happening downtown is going to feel almost cartoonish. But let's put a lid on this subject first. Now, downtown Minneapolis condos are softening too, but for a different reason. Here, we're looking at around 9 months of inventory with sellers cutting prices to try to move volume. What that means is that the list to sale ratio has slipped from basically 100% a year ago down to around 95%, which means sellers are giving up a lot of ground at the negotiating table, and prices are down roughly 5 to 6% year over year. One thing I want to be super clear about, this is a downtown condo problem. It isn't a Minneapolis problem, and it isn't a St. Paul problem either. Single family homes in both cities are doing just fine. And when you hear the media say downtown Minneapolis is dying, that's a lazy take the data just doesn't support, as we'll see. What's happening is a specific supply and demand imbalance in one housing type in 2 zip codes. And a lot of this comes back to hybrid work being permanent now. Because when you don't have to be in the office every day, why would you want to be more close to the office? So that everyone is leaving headline isn't wrong, but it's definitely a wildly imprecise. And the moment you zoom out from those 2 zip codes, the next layer of the metro looks nothing like what people assume. The part of the data that surprised me the most when we broke it down and really looked at it is what's happening with the older neighborhoods inside the 494, 694 loop. Because people are just straight up wrong about that area. Every single inner ring suburb in this analysis that we looked at is sitting under 1.7 months of supply right now, which is not a buyer's market. That's not even a balanced market. The sellers still have full control over here. So let me walk you through these numbers. Hopkins is sitting at around 1.1 months. Bloomington at around 1.2 months, with inventory down 20% year over year, meaning it got more competitive. And Richfield is also sitting around 1.2 months. Then you've got Coon Rapids at 1.3, Brooklyn Center and Philly at 1.4, Brooklyn Park at 1.6, and Columbia Heights at 1.7. So every single one of these is firmly in tight seller's market territory. Now, yes, a few of these cities like Brooklyn Park, Columbia Heights, and Philly have seen inventory grow a little year over year, but they're growing from a starting point that was already super compressed. So going from 1.3 months to 1.6 months isn't a market falling apart. Think of it as the market letting off a tiny bit of steam from being super competitive for a while. And another one worth mentioning here is West Bloomington, which fits right into this group. Single family homes over there are still moving, and it's another example of an inner ring area buyers are chasing, not running away from. So the headlines got the inner ring backwards, which means the real question becomes where buyers are putting their offers down right now. And the answer points to one area in particular. Quick note though before we dive deeper, if you're a relocator or a local move-up buyer trying to figure out where to plant your family in this metro, my team and I work with buyers doing this kind of neighborhood deep dive every week. My contact info is in the description below, so reach out anytime. All right, let's now get back to it. Imagine a Saturday morning where you're walking to the farmer's market with a coffee in hand, the kids are biking ahead of you to the splash pad, and by lunchtime, you're on a trail at a park reserve that backs right up to your neighborhood. Sounds like a dream, but that's a regular weekend out here. And the city pulling this off better than any other right now is leading the entire Northwest area in buyer demand. Maple Grove is sitting at around 1.9 months of supply, and that number is tightening year over year, down about 9 to 10%, which tells you demand is ramping up even as more inventory comes online. Median home values are sitting somewhere in the high 300s to mid 400s, and new listings that hit Maple Grove are typically going to pending in roughly 2 to 3 weeks. So this is a super competitive market, and the appeal is the whole package. You've got Elm Creek Park Reserve right there with hiking, biking, swimming, and cross-country skiing in the winter. You've also got Arbor Lakes, which is an open-air shopping district that gives the city a walkable commercial core, plus over 50 parks and 180 miles of trails woven throughout the city. And before we wrap, I'll show you the one stat that puts Maple Grove and downtown St. Paul side by side in a way that doesn't even feel like the same metro. So stick around for that. But for now, let's go back to where the buyers are flocking to. Now, Dayton, St. Michael, and Rogers sit a step back at around 3 to 4 months of inventory, which is technically a balanced market. But the important context is that a lot of that inventory is new construction that builders are cycling. St. Michael is tightening year over year, down about 10%, while Rogers and Dayton are holding pretty steady. And even at the top of that range, these markets are 2 to 3 times tighter than what's happening with downtown condos. And out in the East Metro, Woodbury is anchoring that side at around 2.3 months of supply, with inventory tightening down roughly 14 to 15% year over year, and median prices sitting somewhere in the mid to high 400s. Homes are typically moving in about a month, with sellers getting close to full ask, if not more. And what's pulling buyers east is the combination of South Washington County schools, a growing jobs base with tens of thousands of new jobs planned by 2040, and easy access to western Wisconsin and beautiful downtown Stillwater. And the new Gold Line rapid bus transit coming online, improving the commute without forcing buyers to give up suburban space. The Northwest and East areas are where the loudest buyer demand is showing up right now. But the same pattern is playing out on the other side of the metro too. And one city down south is doing something none of its neighbors are doing. Right next door to a town where inventory is growing 25% year over year, there's another town where inventory is shrinking by 16%. Same general corridor, same general lifestyle, totally different demand picture. And the one pulling buyers in is Chaska. Chaska is sitting around 2.6 months of supply, and it's the only Southwest metro market with inventory shrinking right now. In 2025, Wallet Hub named Chaska to its top 100 best small cities to live in America, and it's got this walkable historic downtown along the Minnesota River, parks and trails, and a great density of community. The average home values in Chaska are sitting somewhere in the mid to high 400s, and prices are ticking up. Then you've got Chanhassen sitting at around 2.4 months of supply, with median sale prices landing somewhere in the high 400s to mid 500s. And homes are going to contract in roughly 2 to 3 weeks. I recently helped a family list their home in Chanhassen for $475, and in less than 24 hours in the market, we had 2 offers well above 500 and ended up closing that home at 535, exactly 60,000 over the seller's asking price. Needless to say, the sellers were pretty excited and pleased with the outcome. This connects back to a wealthy buyers video I did a few months ago, because what you're seeing in Chanhassen is a broad-based demand across pretty much every price point. I'll link that one down in the description for you. Then you've got Shakopee, Carver, and Prior Lake rounding out the Southwest story at around 3 to 3.5 months of supply, which is technically balanced, still healthy. And worth mentioning if you want that 169 lifestyle but want a tiny bit more breathing room. And this is a great spot for anyone watching from out of state, because I've been getting more calls from buyers in Wisconsin and other neighboring markets looking at this area specifically for the community-oriented feel with 4 real seasons. So buyers are finding their way into the Southwest Metro for the same reasons they're flooding the Northwest area. And once you see every market in the Metro lined up side by side, the size of the gap becomes almost impossible to ignore. When you stack all 17 markets side by side from softest to tightest, there's a cliff in the middle of the list that divides the entire Twin Cities Metro into 2 different worlds. That's where the "everyone is leaving Minneapolis" headline pretty much collapses on itself. At the top, you've got those 2 downtown condo zip codes we already covered. Then there's a massive cliff because the next market down is Dayton at around 3.9 months, which is a balanced market. So the gap between the second softest market and the third softest market is pretty much the clearest dividing line in the whole metro. Below that, you've got St. Michael and Carver around 3.5, Prior Lake at 3.1, Shakopee at 3.0, and then the Southwest and East Metro markets we already walked through, and then Maple Grove kicks off the tight sellers market group at around 1.9. From there, it keeps tightening all the way down to Hopkins at the tightest spot on the list. And one quick thing worth mentioning while you're thinking about budget, if you're looking in Hennepin County, property taxes over there typically run around 1.1 to 1.4% of your home's assessed value annually. Plus, insurance rates have been climbing a bit, so be aware of that. That's all because of hail and wind exposure in the summer months. So that's something worth factoring into your monthly numbers when you're shopping. I have great local insurance contacts to refer you to if you do need help. The bottom line here is the headline isn't that people are leaving Minneapolis. Like we just saw, what they're doing is leaving downtown condos for everywhere else. The "everyone is leaving Minneapolis" headline only holds up if you stop reading after the first sentence, because the metro is just rearranging itself around where people want to live. The buyers who see that pattern early are the ones writing offers in the tightest markets right now, while everyone else is reacting to last year's narrative. If you want to get ahead of where buyers are moving in this metro before summer inventory drops and competition tightens even more, shoot me an email today and I'll pull together a market breakdown for the areas that fit your situation. If you're a buyer trying to figure out where the highest demand suburb in the entire West Metro delivers on schools, lake access, and a downtown that doesn't look like every other strip mall, I've linked my full breakdown on Wayzata right here. With that, we'll end it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.